Carmen Norris.
And I'm Tim Norris, or you could call me GreyElephant, and today we're going to be talking about Imperial Settlers by Portal Games. Now in Imperial Settlers, you'll be taking on the role of one of 4 factions, vying for VP by expanding your empire and harassing your opponents along the way.
Each player should choose one of the 4 possible factions, taking the player board and the deck of faction cards associated. Leave the stack of common cards to the side. Each player should place their token that represents their faction on the 0 of the score tracker. Dump all of the resources within easy reach. Now each player draws 2 cards from their faction deck and 2 from the common deck to form a starting hand. Give the first player token to the starting player and you're all set up and ready to go.
Now each player board has a male and a female side to it. Both sides give you exactly the same abilities, but it is nice to have a choice.
At the beginning of every round in the game, including the first one, you will perform the lookout phase. Draw common cards and lay them in the center of the table, 1 for each player plus 1. Beginning with the start player, you will each draft 1 card, until only 1 card remains. Discard this card, and do this 1 more time. However, this time the last player selects first.
Next, go into the production phase. Located at the top of every player board is a list of your starting resources. Collect those from the supply and add them to your supply.
Now for the action phase. In this phase, you can build locations, raise, make deals, spend workers for resources, or perform actions on your locations.
To build, simply pay the required resources located at the top left of the card into the general supply. Once you do this, you will lay the card to either the left or the right of your player board, depending on if it's a faction or a common. Then you will place the card at the appropriate space. At the top, if it's a production, middle, feature, and at the bottom if it's an action.
Some faction cards will require a foundation in order to build. This means that you must destroy one of your common cards in order to build it. This can be a card that's already flipped over, or a card that is still a location for you. Whenever you build a card that has production on it, you will immediately gain that production, as well as adding this during your production phase.
To make a deal, you simply pay food to the supply and rotate the card, placing it at the top of the player board. You will immediately gain that resource. Keep in mind, only faction cards can be made into deals.
There are 2 ways to raise, either from your own hand or from your opponent's tableau. By paying 1 raise token, you may destroy 1 card in your hand, gaining whatever resources are listed immediately. By paying 2 raise tokens, you may destroy an opponent's already built location and gain the listed resources. However, this card is not discarded. Instead, it is flipped over and can still be used as a foundation by that player. Plus, the player will receive 1 piece of wood in compensation.
On your turn, you may place a shield token on a card that has a raise symbol. This will force an opponent to spend 3 raise tokens instead of 2. It's important to remember that once a player passes, they may no longer be attacked by other players.
To activate a location, simply pay onto the card whatever it requires. This will help you keep track of whether this location has been activated or not this round. You may only activate each of your locations once per round, unless otherwise stated.
By placing 2 workers at the bottom of your board, you may gather 1 stone, 1 wood, 1 food, or a card. You may draw that card from either your faction deck or your common deck.
Once all players have passed, you go into the cleanup phase. Remove all resources that you have used this round, and also discard any resources that your faction cannot carry over. For instance, the barbarians can only carry workers over from 1 round to the next. Egyptians can only carry gold coins over from 1 round to the next. All other resources should be discarded.
Do this for 5 rounds. At the end of the game, gain 2 VP for each faction location built and 1 VP for each common location. Whomever has the highest score at the end of the game wins. And in case of a tie, whomever has the biggest mouth wins.
Overall, I highly recommend Imperial Settlers if you are a fan of engine building and resource management like I am. I really enjoy this game. I like the theme. I'm really a sucker for ancient history, and I really enjoy the fact that you're building the engine and expanding on it each round. Really, the game changes because you never know which cards you're going to draw. So that really gives you a lot of replayability right there, besides the fact you have 4 factions to choose from. It is very easy to learn how to play, but it can be very challenging depending on who you're playing against, and you really need a lot of plays to learn the cards and the strategy. So overall, I'm going to say I recommend this game. I really enjoy playing with 2 and 3 players.
Man, this game is beautiful, wonderfully designed. One of the best of 2014. I've been having a lot of fun with it lately, as you can tell. Now, do I think that this game's for anybody? I'm not so naive, okay? There's a peaceful variant, okay? There's a way to play the game where it's kind of like, you're doing your thing and I'm going to do my thing. We're not going to harass each other. We're going to live in peace and harmony and hold hands and kumbaya. That's cute, but that's not the way the game was designed to be played. It's designed to be played aggressive. And if you're not playing aggressive, you're probably going to lose. You need to have the option to go after your opponent. Not only to gain the resources from raising them, but also just to harass them. Don't let them just sit over there and do whatever they want, because they will continue to grow and expand and probably just run away with the game. Cards. The cards in this game are your most valuable commodity. Don't continuously raise your own. Go after your opponents, because you're going to have a hard time keeping enough cards in your hand. How you choose to use these cards is really going to determine whether you're going to win or lose. Do you make a deal? Do you build it? Do you raise it? These are the tough decisions you're going to have to make. Whenever you think that there's nothing to do, typically there's probably still one more thing you can. And that's the beauty and the trick of the game. Trying to, outthink the system. And that's not always easy to do. The 4 different factions do feel very unique and different. Barbarians all about population, Japanese about deals, Romans about resources, and the Egyptians about, well, just being annoying. They do harass you a lot. The Egyptians are probably the most aggravating faction to play against. And I've heard some people complain even and think that they're overpowered. Don't be so naive. For every yin, there is a yang in this game. There's always a balance and a counterbalance. This game feels like a Euro with teeth. And I tell you what, it will bite you if you're not careful. Couple more things I want to make note of. There's a solo variant, which is a lot of fun to play, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. My high score is 94 points with the Barbarian. See if you can beat that. Number 2, the artwork is just a blast to look at. Absolutely love it. All across the board, a fabulous production, a game I highly recommend. But you don't always got to take my opinion of this. Check out our live play right here. We did a 5-part series, which will take you through each one of the rounds, about 10 minutes apiece. And you can just watch my wife and I go at it head-to-head. I was Romans, she was Egyptians, and then you can decide whether this is a game for you or not. As usual, I appreciate you watching. Bye-bye.
Griffin Gaming, from new releases to pre-orders. Griffin Gaming. Enter in promo code GreyElephant for 5% off your order.